and go.
Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel channel for foodies. I'm Brent Peterson. I'm an American living in Portugal, and today, in the interest of fairness, we're going to do a video on 5 things that the US does better than Portugal. I recently did a video about 5 things that Portugal does better than the US. You can watch that video if you're interested in that. This one will be about some of my observations that US does better than Portugal in the 3 years that we've been living here. So in the last video, I talked about how transportation is better in Portugal, but that was in the context of public transportation. So between cities, there's really good public transit with buses and trains in Portugal, and within cities, there's good network of buses, of metros, of trams, and of elevators, because Portugal's a hilly country, so you got to get from a lower part of the city to an upper part of the city. But when it comes to air transportation, I believe that the US has it over Portugal hands down, and that's simply because of the convenience of air travel in the US. Now, I normally prefer to travel by train or by bus, but with longer distances or going over oceans, you have to do it by plane. And in the US, it's so easy. You know, you buy your ticket, you go through security, which, you know, admittedly is a bit of a hassle, but then you get to your gate, you walk down the jetway, and you're on your plane, on your way. In Portugal and in much of Europe, it's quite different. You come in, you go through security, but then you're in some kind of holding pen because your gate isn't announced. And then when your gate finally is announced, there's a scrum to get to it. And then when you show your ticket and go through, you're put in this holding pen. And it's, you know, in Lisbon, for instance, it's this big open covered area outdoors that can be very uncomfortable, very crowded, sometimes very cold or very hot, depending on what time of year it is. And then you might get taken on a bus and driven to another part of the airport, or you might be walking across the tarmac and climb the stairs to your plane, which, you know, if the weather's nice, it's not a huge deal. But if it's raining, even if you have an umbrella, you're gonna probably get wet. And is there anything worse than having wet feet and wet clothes when you're on a plane for a couple hours? I don't think so. So definitely give it to the US, give them the check mark when it comes to air travel. So this next one might be a little bit controversial, but hear me out. First of all, we're in the Livramento market, and if you saw my video about the Livramento market, you know how great this place is. But the next thing I'm going to say that the US does better than Portugal is restaurants, and not the quality of the restaurants, because Portuguese cuisine is amazing. It's ranked near the top of world cuisines, and rightly so. In fact, in one recent one I saw, it was ranked #1, ahead of even Italian and French cuisine, surprisingly. But what I'm talking about when it comes to restaurants in the US versus Portugal is the variety of restaurants. When we lived in the US, we could just, you know, throw out a cuisine and be like, oh, what do you want to have tonight? You want to have Mexican food? You want to have Japanese food? You want to have African food? You know, no matter what it is. Scandinavian, anything you can think of, you can find it in any big city in the United States. In Portugal, most restaurants serve Portuguese food. Makes sense, right? But sometimes you're looking for a little bit of variety, and it can be a little bit difficult, especially if you're in a smaller city. Now, it's starting to change a little bit here. In places like Lisbon, of course, there's tons of different kinds of foods, and I did a video about amazing African food in Lisbon, but there's great food from all over the world in Lisbon. But even in our city, which is a relatively, you know, for Portugal, it's a medium-sized city. In the US, it would be a small city, about 100,000 people. It's just beginning to change. We had a couple restaurants from Nepal open. We've got good Indian food here. We have kind of a Pan-African one here. We have a Bangladeshi restaurant that just opened, and I haven't even tried it yet. So I'm thinking I should do a video about how Portuguese cuisine is beginning to change on the restaurant scene, even in smaller cities like ours. But for the most part, you're going to go into a cafe, they're going to have bitak and bifana and some soup and maybe some grilled fish for you. And, you know, that's going to be the extent of the menu. And if you're looking for variety, it might be a little bit difficult. On the plus side, they're undoubtedly going to have amazing pastries. And this place, look at this, is like an orange tart, and it's got like fresh sliced orange on top. Sticky. Oh, wow. Oh, man. That is one of the best orange cakes I've ever had. That is amazing. Wow. This one, see if I can get through it. Nice. This place is called 123 Gramish. Uma dos Três Gramish. Really good pastries. Super yummy. The other thing is water. Don't expect to get free tap water when you come into a place. For the most part, you're going to be buying if you want water, you're going to be buying bottled water. I'm seeing that beginning to change in some Portuguese restaurants where they'll have like a jug of water with it, and you fill up your cup with tap water. But for the most part, you're going to be winding up paying for water. But man, I can't get over this orange cake. Delicious. Another thing that America has over Portugal is when it comes to films, movies, and entertainment. We're at the Cinema Charlotte, which is a local art house here in our city of Setúbal. And you can see even here, they're showing an American movie, The Brutalist, behind me. And that's typical for movie houses. Even the big mall cinema, that's about a 15-minute walk from here, typically shows American movies subtitled in Portuguese. So it's good for us. I mean, we go to see movies here. They're typically, like in Spain, they'll be dubbed into Spanish and we'll have trouble understanding them. But here in Portugal, they have the original language with subtitles underneath. And you know, there is a Portuguese filmmaking industry here, but it's dwarfed by the size of the one in the United States and in Hollywood. There is talk in the next town over of building a big studio with sound stages, but I've been hearing that for a couple of years and I haven't seen much movement on it. So hopefully they'll do that, and hopefully it'll increase the profile of Portuguese films, because there are good Portuguese filmmakers here, but they just can't compete with the Marvels of the world and the big blockbusters and Fast and Furious and car wreck movies that come out of the United States. And Portuguese love them. They go to see them, and they're very familiar with American culture, also familiar with American music. So we'll give America the nod when it comes to these kinds of Hollywood films. I got to say, grocery stores in the United States are definitely better than here in Portugal. And it's not because of the lack of quality. There is good quality of the stuff that you get in the grocery store. And our local shop is right next to the Livramento market, where they've got terrific produce. So usually when I'm getting fruit and veg, I don't go into the grocery store. I go in here for staples. The issue is these grocery stores are typically much smaller than your grocery store in the US. So you walk into a Whole Foods, it would be much, much bigger than what you would see here. And because of that, the selection is much more limited, especially when it comes to stuff like organic or bio. Very limited amount of organic stuff in the Portuguese grocery store, and a real lack of vegan stuff as well. I do get vegan yogurt in here, which is very good and I like a lot, but like the vegan cheese, limited selection, not good quality. So grocery stores, yeah, you can really go and stock up at your local Whole Foods a lot better than you can at your Pingo Doce, which is our local Portuguese chain. So we'll finish off with kind of a funny one, and that's public toilets. I just took it for granted when we lived in the US that you could go pretty much into any store or restaurant or grocery store and use their public toilet for free. Here, not so much. In fact, a lot of the public toilets are pay toilets, and this one is 20 cents. Most of them you'll see are between 50 cents and €1. And obviously 20 cents is not a lot to pay to use the bathroom. The problem is if you're walking around and you don't have coins and you gotta go, what are you gonna do? I've noticed some of these public toilets have started to offer card swiping to use the toilet for 50 cents, which is humorous to me. But, you know, if you're in an emergency, you need to find a toilet, you might have a little bit of difficulty doing it. Now, does that mean that there aren't any free public toilets? No, of course not, there are. But we were just in an airline terminal recently. It wasn't in Portugal, it was in another European country, and the toilets were pay toilets to use in an airport. I mean, come on. If there's one place you want to have free public toilets, it would be in an airport. But no, typically in bus stations and train stations, a lot of them you will see will have pay toilets. So I guess the advice is keep change with you if you gotta pee. And the money goes to keeping this thing clean. It gets cleaned automatically after every use. So that's a positive, but it doesn't do you much good if it's clean if you don't have any change on you. So hope you like this video about 5 things that are better in the United States than they are in Portugal. I also did the video of 5 things in Portugal that are better than the United States. Let me know what you think, if there's things that you think the United States does better in Portugal or that Portugal does better than the United States down in the comments. And like the video, subscribe to the channel. I've also got a ton of Foodie travel guide ebooks available at buymeacoffee.com/destination-eat-drink. And I took all 17 of my city guides in Portugal, put them into one single ebook. It's over 600 pages long. It's only $9.99 at buymeacoffee.com/destination-eat-drink/extras. I'm Brent Peterson. I drop new foodie travel videos every Wednesday on YouTube. So subscribe so you can get all of those, and I'll see you down the road.